Scott Russell, Global Freedom Movement. Thinking about the World Economic Forum, the state of things, where, in my limited bit of knowledge, things may be going, and what the expectations are for the future, and for all of us, for our things we own, our possessions, our livelihoods. It's a good discussion to have, and so I'm just going to talk, and I'm not saying it's all correct or necessarily going to happen this way, but it's a few thoughts to be a catalyst, maybe to provoke thought and conversation, start the conversation with some of us. You know, the WEF is definitely only a group of very powerful and influential people that, as I've said in other videos, pull the financial strings to the world. So, you know, we can look and say, well, we can get rid of them easily. No, you can't. It's naturally, I don't think there's too many answers to beat the plans of what they have in place. They have people that are prepared to do anything to maintain that power and that control, and it's the height of what many of us have spent, or many people, not us hopefully, many people have spent their life worshipping, you know, a god of money, a god of self-importance, a god of power. And then when you've reached the top and you've got financial no limitations, what's left but power? What's left but global domination? And that's, you know, I'm sure in some of their eyes they're completely justified in that, and seeing themselves as the smarter ones. They probably are, as far as the world system goes. I don't believe, as far as a God and the spirit of life goes, that would be true. But so we're seeing these people just taking over, and I know people have been asking and saying, gee, what hope have we got? What can we do? And already I'm going to have a plane land on my head. And I do believe there's some great simple things we can do to prepare for what we have in our lives and for our lives. Now, let's talk about some of those. This might be a long-ish video, so again, but let's just have the conversation and talk and see where we end up. So I think the world is definitely toast. I think our economic systems of this world are in collapse. It's just, you know, playing out. Anyone that thinks that it's salvageable is deluded. Again, I'm reminded that these men pull the strings to the financial systems of the world. They know full well that when you collapse people's livelihoods, when you take things from people, they will do anything to feed their families and themselves, and they're counting on that. You know, they're counting on, I made a video about the USA, how that if they don't break the USA, everything's lost. So what are they doing? They blocked me after that video. I can share that anywhere, but not to the US groups. So it's true. We all know it's true. You know, America stands for freedom. Americans won't just roll over for anything. I think we're seeing different nationalities that do and don't. The Dutch seem pretty strong in their resolution. But America, you know, so what are they doing? They bring inflation, they bring illegal immigration, they bring everything they can to try to break the national identity of the people. Because if they can bring America to its knees, they've got the world. And that's their final piece they're waiting for. So as much as we may have various thoughts about the US, it's pretty important to both our freedom, and it's pretty important to them for their world domination. So I mean, it's hard at this time to know who's good, who's bad. You can look at some of these leaders that have been involved in the World Economic Forum and wonder, gee, are they for us or are they for against us? And I don't really know, but I think we have to approach people in the spirit of who we are. One of the beautiful things about freedom is, as people are coming into this thirst for freedom, it's a cry of the heart. And as it's been like, I need to be free, it only resonates with others with the same cry. And I think that's what's important in this journey, is to find that. Community is our answer. Find people of like spirit and be community with them. Now, having come up through churches, I used to be involved in organised religion, so I can speak about that. I've earned the right to speak about it. It's not the answer. I think to build a commune, it's not the answer. There is no natural answer. The answer is the spirit of who we are. The answer is flowing in that spirit. Because we all know, we've seen communes over the years, they just collapse. They run off and live in the bush. It's not really going to be your answer. Pretty selfish answer if it is. We're there to help others and to be with others, and that's why you're seeing what you see, and you see it different to others, because you don't put a light with other lights. You put a light in a dark place to bring light. You are a light in a dark place. Some of the people around you don't get it, may never get it, but they're going to wake up one day and go, gee, how did this happen? And that's your time to just love. Not to say I told you so, but to just love. So I think in their thirst to break the US, they will do anything and everything, and that's why these social media people are censoring and trying to block us. Both of our groups are censored. We have a backup page now that's restricted as well, and they never tell you what for. They just say, oh, you did a post we don't agree with and you're blocked. And like, well, what's the post? They don't tell you. So whatever, they're not the end of the world. Our voice will be heard. So I encourage you, the way to get around these media bans and things is the good old-fashioned way of community. Talk to your next door neighbour. Hang over the fence. Bake them a cake. Go around there and sit and just chat and talk about the state of the world and the way things are going, what you see as answers, and how can I build community. We're not looking to do deals. I'll feed you, you do this for me, I'll do. No, it's to say, I love you. I unconditionally will do for you what's coming out of my spirit. You can't demand that. You can't expect that. I'll just do it because I care, because it's the right thing to do, not because there's something in it for me. The World Economic Forum can't stop that. They don't have that. They're substituting that. Their spirit is money. Money and power brings them together. Money and power, we all know, right? We've been there. It's greedy. It's a dark world. It's a dog-eat-dog world in that. They have no loyalty to each other. They're scared of each other. I've known men that have been invited to some events that are for these global elites, the top of runs of society. They trap you into doing things because you want their acceptance. They trap you, and once you're there, they hold it over your head. These people pull the strings on judges, on politicians. Look at some of the lists of people that have, been abusive with children, and they won't release the names. Well, it's outrageous. But they're the men that rule the world in that natural sense. But God's bigger. God's in you. That's why you got this far in this video. So I think the World Economic Forum is going to collapse. They have collapsed the world economy, and they are just sitting with their hand on the switch saying, I'll switch it when I want. When it suits our evil agenda, we'll switch it, and people will do as they're told then. I think that'll be regionally. They will probably start, I think, in the New Zealand, because it's a smaller, easier managed economy that they can see the responses. They will. They're already at work in the third world nations. But we see in Sri Lanka, it collapsed. But what did they do? They stuck one of their World Economic Forum goons in there to to run the place. And so I mean, it'll be the same. It's not the answer. I do believe we win in the end, but we don't win the way we all think, where life just goes back to normal. Normal's done. If you're looking for normal, it's done. You have to create a new, changing hands here. You have to create a new normal that's really based in what God would have for our lives. They can't fight God. You know, they treat, sorry, I'm just talking, it's a lot of talk, I know. They treat the world as a modelling. They've probably put it into a computer system, and if we do this, that will happen. But they don't count on the spirit, and a computer doesn't model the spirit of what's going to happen. They don't model you into that. The fact that you have freedom and you are free, and whom the Son, who God sets free, who Jesus sets free, is free indeed. That's my belief. And I think the answers are all there. So, community. Build that community. Be that community. Let it just be life and freedom. And yeah, you're going to get abuse. People are going to do things they shouldn't do, say things they shouldn't say. That's just people. Where there's love, love covers all. Don't let it offend. Don't let it pull you down to where you don't need to be. Just keep loving. Keep loving. I've found people come along that don't really hear the same sound of the Spirit. They just like the community that we are, or they like what we're doing and they want that, or they want to be part of that. Those people, I'm like, yeah, you're welcome to be here, but just be aware that I mean, they could be gone tomorrow because they're not really hearing the same sound. So I think the World Economic Forum will crash. They have crashed the economy. They will throw the switch where that will just ultimately close the systems of the world. Because think about it, banks are part of the World Economic Forum. These big families, I won't name the names, but you all know them, that run the financial systems of the world. They're all part of it. So how can it not? And you can continue to think it's going back to normal. And what's that saying? He who buries his head in the sand is bound to get burnt in the end. And don't get burnt in the end. You've seen it, live it. Live the freedom, be the freedom. So as they collapse the systems, I think we're going to see food riots. We're already starting to see that around the world, but I think we're going to see it in some of our first world nations. We're going to see food riots. I think that's why, like here in Australia, they've passed a lot of laws to try to protect the politicians, to try to take our rights. And that's because they know full well that they need these laws in place, because, like as if they care about laws, right? But they need these laws in place because they know food riots are coming. They know that there's going to be chaos on a massive scale. It's part of the plan. I believe in parts of the world, obviously it'll be more severe in some parts than others, and I think the inner cities, it'll be, it wouldn't surprise me if we see, as much as I hate to say it, you think about in the Great Depression, people were jumping off bridges, committing suicide because of their loss of livelihood. I think we're going to see a lot of death. And I think it will be in some parts of the world. It'll start to become commonplace to see a body laying in the front of their house, nobody picking it up because of the chaos. I know that's a terrible thing to say, but I think it's just the reality of where this is headed. Again, how do we prepare? You prepare by community, spirit community, not deals. I mean, because if it's on deals, somebody's going to do a better deal and you're going to get left out in the cold. But we've all met those people. You come into their life and you feel like you've known them their whole life. And you just would do anything for them, they do anything for you. Keep it in that spirit. Bring God into it. Talk to God. So how do you do that? Speak, just like we're talking. But you feel it inside. You feel freedom. And when that sparks come alive in you, You can run off into religion and all sorts of things. The answer's not there. You'll be back because it won't fulfill you. So you can look at programs and things, but they're only just something where you're thirsting for control and understanding, and ultimately understanding is many times control, right? And not necessarily anything wrong with that, but if you're living out of that, it's not your answer. So, on me, the answer is not to look for control, but to look for freedom. It's in you, especially if you got this far in the video. And then find that community that, I like to say, you resonate with it. It has the same sound that you have. And just enjoy the freedom of that. And as you enjoy the freedom of that, don't try to put a structure around it. Flow with it. Flow with where it's going. Flow with what it's doing. It's your answer. And one day you're going to feel to go to the left. The next day it'll be go to the right. You don't need a reason. You need to follow the peace. Maybe you don't believe in God. I do, and I can only talk out of my personal experiences. As I follow that, as I follow what God reveals to me, it brings life, it brings freedom, it brings answers, it brings the creative, and it brings me a way of life. Now, I'm talking what I've earned the right to talk about. I've lived this for over 20 years in preparation for this moment. I wrote a book on it, of my journey out of religion and into spirit, the Holy Spirit. That's free. You can get Global Inflation Freedom. I think it's on that site. You can download it for free. Or you can get it from Amazon if you want to. But live that spirit of freedom. Live that community. So as they collapse the world and chaos happens around us and things go, well, I don't even know. I mean, I know that's not going to be pretty. As things go that way, if we're living in that freedom in ourselves, it's not what enters into a man that defiles him, it's what comes out of him. So I think then as we live that freedom, we will see the right answers, we will see the right way, and we will have peace. My guess is there'll be a period of about 3 years of the chaos in that, and then I think after that 3 years they will start to become, well, they're going to present an answer, and that answer I think will ultimately be these chips and a mark that you can't buy or sell without, as the Bible talks about, either on the forehead or the palm, on the right hand. I tend to think Trump, as much as people have their feelings towards him, I think the world's going to be begging him to come back. I've been saying that since before the last election. I said, I don't believe he's going to get back in that election, and he didn't. And I said, and I believe, though, that it's not his time. As things collapse, they're going to hand him a basket case of a mess. People are going to be asking him to come back because, he's the only one that takes a lead. Right or wrong, and some people say, well, he's part of WEF or he's not. I think he's a man of convictions. He's a man of principles. And I think he is a man of compassion, which some of these others don't have. And I think those things, the fact that he has empathy and a care, and I believe he really does care for America, and I believe he will ultimately do a lot better than most for that. Not that there's other men and women that couldn't do that. There's some very capable and good men and women in that country, but I think they will beg Trump to come back. The world, and as he comes back, I think he will bring some release. But ultimately, we are still going to see the World Economic Forum, especially in other parts of the world. They are going to dominate. They are going to have their people that will just rule, and it'll be certainly disturbing times in one way and peaceful in another. It's a good time to know God, isn't it? Good time to know who he is and what he is and where it's all going to go. So I think in the end, our peace lies in that. If you're putting your peace in what you own, it's no good, because that's all going to go. now's a good time to reconcile in yourself that, you know, if I wake up and I no longer have control over my job, my money, my house, my car, if they collapse the currency, I mean, there's videos I've done on there of Venezuela. So, you know, you put numbers in your bank, you see $100,000, $1 million, whatever it is you've got in your bank, you think, gee, I'm doing pretty good, but the cost of living has gone up and inflation eats at that. So your money's disappearing. Venezuela said that all the houses were $1 million houses, but foreigners were coming in and buying them for $50,000. So inside your global bubble, think about it, all the mess that we're in, and the Forex, the currency exchange, hasn't really moved all that much. Somebody's pulling the strings to make sure normal stays. The illusion of normal. The World Economic Forum, again, just shows they rule the world in that. So, I hate to be the guy that says it, but what would happen if you woke up and your money was now worthless? Where would you be? I mean, are you that guy that's going to jump off a bridge? Are you that woman that's going to get mad at your husband? Or that woman that's going to jump off a bridge? And it's a time to know God. It's a time to enter into the spirit of life and know there are answers. And those answers are not that complicated. Don't feed on the drama, is another saying I like to say, because if you feed on the drama's actually feeding on you. And we just don't want that. I think I've walked too far. I'll walk back. The drama feeds on you, then you get worn out. When you get worn out, what do? You pull away and pull back, and it's too scary, I can't handle the thought of this, it's having me misunderstood by people I care about. Well, you know what? Keep your mouth shut. You don't need agreement. You need to build in the spirit of who you are. Build in the spirit so you don't walk in the flesh. Build in the spirit so you don't walk in the natural desires which are only going away. And be life. Be life. So yep, we're in for some rough times. We're in for some global chaos. They're going to try to transition that as good as they can, but at some point they're going to pull the trigger on that. But you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, it's horrible, but you've got the answer at work in you. Feed that now. Prepare that now. That's the love of God right there that switched you on. Don't go looking off in systems of religion and systems of, you know, whatever. Be in the freedom of the Spirit. So anyway, that's kind of a bit of a waffle today, but and it's pretty long. But I just kind of wanted to connect heart, just share like you were walking here with me. As I think if it'd be nice to have a conversation coming the other way, but that's just some of my thoughts. It's going to be all right. But yeah, we're going to have some struggles, and the people we love and care about, there are going to be various responses. It's okay. Talk to God about it. I don't know. Just get over it. Let God just start to be part of your life. Not religion, but God. And then you're going to feel that peace, and then follow the peace. It'll never steer you wrong.